Welcome to Player Profiler today with Bredon Booth. I am your host, Bredon Booth. Today is May 3rd, 2024, and we've got a great show. Lot of player movement going on. That'll be our top story, and we'll talk about it all. So go ahead and sit back, make yourself some popcorn, or maybe even a grilled cheese. Pop open a fizzy drink, and let's do this. Our top story today is player movement. Okay, so let's break this down. We are about a week, 8 days removed from the first day, the first round of the 2024 NFL draft. Super exciting weekend. Thursday, Friday, Saturday was it was exciting. Your team, your favorite team, my favorite team, we all added pieces that we love. We all added pieces that we're kind of met on, and we all added pieces that I don't know if they're going to work out. However, lost among the excitement and the Super Bowl championship gravity of the choices that your favorite GM is making is the fact that team building for a general manager goes beyond just the 7 rounds of each year's NFL draft. There is free agency to consider. There are the UDFAs after the draft is over, who are the college kids that didn't get chosen. There are re-signing guys in-house, etc. Lots of things. Being a general manager is complicated. It's almost as complicated as being a fantasy manager. So with that, we had teams that were already kind of built out, and essentially the general managers were trying to find pieces that fit, whether it was a player's physical profile, production profile, how much grit they had. Are they a dog? Do they fit the scheme? Do they fit a position of need? That kind of thing. And then the draft was over. 200 something picks later, 7 rounds later, the draft was done. And the mind kind of at the end of all the excitement kind of goes to, okay, well, this is the team that we're going with. Not so fast, because there are still free agents who are out there. And that's what we're talking about today. We have a lot of player movement. First of all, news of the day, wide receiver Chase Claypool has signed with the Buffalo Bills on a 1-year deal. Now, Claypool had quite a good career with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was part of a deal that sent him to the Bears. He hasn't really found his footing, but the Bills wide receiver core seems to be kind of wide open. So it might be a good fit. Maybe he returns to the level of play of his rookie season. The next signing that I wanted to talk about was Odell Beckham Jr. Odell Beckham Jr. is another one who had some really, really great seasons as a young player. Won a Super Bowl with the LA Rams, got hurt, and, made his way to Baltimore. Kind of hasn't been the wide receiver one since his injury, and now he's landed with the Miami Dolphins. So Odell signed with Baltimore last season after leaving LA, and he earned 64 targets throughout the 17 games, a target percentage or a target number of about 2 or 3 per game. Not really something that, the profile that Odell Beckham Jr. once had kind of fit. 35 receptions in those 64 targets, 565 yards, 3 touchdowns. He played in only 14 games. That is the most that he played in 2019. So ostensibly, he is a bit healthier than he has been, and he might just be a really, really wicked, good, under-the-radar signing for Miami. Adding to the wide receiver core of Jalen Waddle, tongue-tied, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. Miami likes to play super fast. I don't know if Odell still has the speed that he used to have, but that's definitely something for consideration. Now, another big move that was made, Ezekiel Elliott. Now, Zeke is entering the twilight of his career, you could say, to be perfectly nice. He's back in Dallas after playing in New England. He signed a 1-year deal, $2 million guaranteed, and worth up to $3 million. Now, going back to my theme of team building and the draft, there was a lot of puzzlement that was a result of Jerry Jones' draft strategy. Just about everybody in every aspect of football prognostication, from your ESPN guys, from your fantasy cloud, from everywhere, was thinking the Cowboys have to be taking a running back. I am the victim of that, or perpetrator of that narrative myself. I believe on this show, flag planting, the Cowboys were going to take Braylon Allen, and mentioning in other various forums that they were going to be taking Braylon Allen as the first running back off the board. Much to my surprise, because I wasn't 100% convinced of that, but I was pretty darn sure that all the signs pointed that way. The Dallas Cowboys had running backs in for visits more than any team in the draft. And in a zag move, when everybody else was zigging, they didn't draft a running back. Were they trying to pump up the market for the rookie running backs? Make people think, oh, I better grab a running back because the Dallas Cowboys are about to? Was that a little piece of Jerry Jones' prestige? Was he like, and I mean that in the magic trick way, not necessarily the reputation way. Was he trying to just fool everybody, or did the draft board just not land his way? He passed on everybody. He did not draft a running back. So after the draft, Jerry goes out and he re-signs Ezekiel Elliott, a guy that he let walk when he thought Tony Pollard was the answer. Turned out Tony Pollard wasn't the answer. Now he's bringing Zeke back. Is it a tail between his legs, mea culpa? It seems like, a 1-year, $2 million guaranteed deal seems pretty big for a running back of Zeke's age. So the Cowboys go into the season with Ezekiel Elliott, Malik Davis, I believe, is still there, and Matt Kelly, favorite, Rico Dowdle. Deuce Vaughn is there too. Royce Freeman. Maybe Malik Davis is gone. My bad. Or in Latin, mea culpa. So it's been a while since Zeke has been a first round fantasy pick. The Dallas room is now really crowded. Zeke's also been dealing with nagging injuries each of the years that he's been in New England and his last with Dallas. Over his Dallas career, he totaled 8,260 yards and 70 touchdowns. Over 7 seasons, that's not too shabby. Definitely worth the draft pick that they spent on him. And we're going to see after this season, does Zeke have anything left in the tank? Is he going to bring enough into camp to earn that $2 million, or to take that $2 million and overshadow Rico Dowdle? Are the Cowboys even confident that Rico Dowdle can handle everything? I don't think they're confident that Deuce Vaughn can. He's what in the business we call a little guy. So we have more to talk about, more player movement and everything, more news, and I will be back in just a second to go over all of that. But first, here's Matt Kelly to tell you a way that you can dominate your dynasties.
Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator app. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add Superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from Player Profiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer, so you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team, and then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side, prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing, and it's going to be well worth it.
Welcome back to Player Profiler Today with Bredon Booth. I am still Bredon Booth. More player movement news, and sticking in Arlington and Dallas. Michael Gallup, former Cowboys wide receiver 2, has signed a free agent deal with the Las Vegas Raiders. This is another move that's post-draft. The Raiders didn't draft a wide receiver, so this might be them trying to kind of shore up that wide receiver room. I know that they did sign some undrafted free agents, but they didn't draft anybody. Now, Gallup was once thought of as a top receiver in the NFL. In 2019, he had 113 targets and 1,107 yards as the Cowboys wide receiver 2. He had similar numbers in 2020, not quite as many yards, but he tore his ACL, and that kind of derailed his very promising career. In 3 seasons since then, he hasn't eclipsed the 500-yard mark. He's been in the 400-yard range each of those years. 445 was the most that he's had since 2020. Now, he signed with the Raiders. The deal could be worth up to $3 million, similar to what Zeke is looking at. I have no word on the guarantee, but I'm sure there is some out there for a standard veteran free agent contract, and that's just going to cover the 1 year, the 2024 season. Is he cuttable at the end of camp when they're trying to whittle down to the 53-man roster? Probably. Now he's joining a wide receiver room that includes Davante Adams and Jacoby Myers as the main targets. Second-year wideout and deep threat Trey Tucker is there. He had a rookie season that saw Gallup level targets in 3 of the final games of 2023. So it looks like those are going to be the 2 competitors for the wide receiver 3 spot. With the Raiders drafting tight end, big slot, combo wide receiver tight end Brock Bowers, it remains to be seen what they're going to look like. They have a second round draft capital in 2023 draft pick Michael Mayer, tight end from Notre Dame. So it's imagined that they're going to be going to a lot of 12 personnel. That's when 2 tight ends are playing, split Brock Bowers off, have him line up as a split end with Michael Mayer in line as a blocker, who can also leak out and make catches while Brock works his way down the field. That's probably with Davante Adams in the game and in giving the Raiders quarterback, whoever it may be, Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, giving them 4 receiving options would put Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, and Mike Gallup in kind of a rotational situation on the opposite side of Davante Adams with a running back in the backfield. If Gallup was a few years younger, if he wasn't joining an offense that was kind of as full as the Raiders offense is, he might be considered a post hype target in your fantasy drafts. However, with the number of mouths to feed that are out there, he's a possible late round sleeper or a waiver ad. So essentially, we're going to watch and see what happens with Michael Gallup, and if we start seeing indicators of him having a role that's a little bit bigger than what we imagine he's going to play, then he might be worth a waiver pickup. Now, all of that can be found over on Player Profiler News. Search that in Twitter, go to Player Profiler, go to a player profile, go down to News and Media, and you will find all of these news tidbits put together by the news desk at Player Profiler, who is doing fantastic work. And it all can be found in aggregate at the playerprofiler.com/news archive. Technical difficulties here. One other thing that I did want to address as it pertains to player movement is the fifth-year option for Najee Harris. Najee Harris is the other Pittsburgh Steelers running back in addition to Jaylen Warren. And Najee Harris should be considered as part of a 1-2 punch in that Pittsburgh offense. He does have over 1,000 yards rushing for the first 3 years of his career. He's going to be playing his 4th year this season, and then the Steelers declined his 5th-year option. He has been getting 250 touches a year, 250 carries a year, so it seems that he's a workhorse back. Although his efficiency metrics are not in the place where the team thinks of him as a complete bell cow, like an every down back. He's more of a large guy, first and second down guy. Jaylen Warren handles a lot more of the passing, the receiving work. Essentially, Jaylen Warren is looked at as a more explosive back, and that's what the Steelers are looking for. Now, does that mean that the Steelers aren't gonna re-sign him? Not necessarily. They will have the ability to sign him for his 5th year, just not pay him on his 5-year deal. But that rarely happens, and so it's not really a promising look. It does beg the question: does Arthur Smith think that Najee Harris is a serviceable option in the Steelers' attack? Could we see Najee Harris relegated to a much lesser role than he's been playing over the last 3 years with different offensive coordinators than Arthur Smith? Common sense, or at least common analysis, would say, well, Arthur Smith loves having multiple heads in the running back room. As a head coach in Atlanta, he didn't play into the fantasy community's idea of how many times Bijan Robinson should touch the ball, nor did he do the same with Tyler Algier. In Tennessee, he went with a two-headed monster approach for many years, having competent backups to Derrick Henry. But essentially, Najee Harris's role in fantasy is going to be a little bit cloudy from now on. Jaylen Warren has risen each year. 2022, everybody was talking about he should get the ball. 2023, everybody was talking about he should get the ball. Keep Najee Harris in mind as a quote-unquote handcuff in your fantasy leagues. But if he does assume a much smaller role, then he should be easy to cut bait on. In other veteran contract news, the Chiefs signed Travis Kelce to an extension worth $34.25 million over the next 2 years. That's he's the highest paid tight end in football, and at this point, he should be. At 34 years old last season, he came just 16 yards shy of his 8th 1,000-yard receiving season in a row. That's pretty productive. and definitely worth where the Chiefs were able to draft him. In a down year, he still managed 93 receptions for 984 yards and 5 touchdowns. He was the tight end 3 in fantasy in only 15 games. Might have popped as the tight end 1 if he hadn't been dealing with a couple of injuries, and played those extra 2 games. But it wasn't until the second half of the season and then ultimately the playoffs that Kelce absolutely just reverted to Travis Kelce cheat code mode. In the postseason, he had 32 receptions for 355 yards. So that's you're looking at 10 catches a game plus 100 plus yards per game. 3 touchdowns. Sorry, he played in 4 games. So eight catches a game, right around the 75, 80 yards per game, and just short of a touchdown per game. At this point, it's pretty safe to say Travis Kelce is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He was a 3rd rounder in 2013. So he's moving on to bigger and better things once his career is over. He's the Chiefs' all-time leader in receiving yards, 11,328 to this point. He has 75 career touchdowns, and he's going to remain an elite top-tier tight end option in fantasy for the foreseeable future, at least the next 2 years, unless something catastrophic happens with an injury. He's once again a top 10 dynasty asset, and the Chiefs have tried to put pieces around him. They went out and they signed Marquise Hollywood Brown from Arizona. They drafted Xavier Worthy to give them an ultra fast deep threat type, kind of similar in the vein of Tyreek Hill, not necessarily as a player, but the idea of stretching the defense, and so it looks like, although they're coming off a Super Bowl championship, the Chiefs are still assessing where can we make fixes with this team, and the receiving core is definitely one of those places. To finish up, we will talk about some draft picks and signings. We have, well, let's do this. Let's talk about the Rams situation. So the Rams went out and they drafted Blake Corum, national champion from the University of Michigan. A lot of people had Blake Corum as one of the top 3 running backs in the 2024 rookie class. Kyron Williams through the Rams running back roulette over the past couple of years came out ahead and put together some pretty good numbers to finish out the season last year. Now, Sean McVay said in a press conference after the draft, obviously, and this is a quote, "Obviously, I love Kyron. He's been so important and just the human being. But then also when you just look at the way he works at it, the production and the things that he was able to bring to our offense last year, even really some of the things that he worked through his rookie year, I think there's a lot of similarities," unquote, between him and Blake Corum. And he believes that Kyron Williams will be a, quote, great mentor for Corum. The Rams will now have the 1-2 punch that they didn't have last season, with Gerald Henderson and again the running back roulette. Kyron Williams, not a Matt Kelly favorite. A lot of people, he rose up their dynasty values board, rose up their redraft values board, redraft draft boards. But with Blake Corum's ability to score, is Kyron Williams going to get vultured at the goal line? Is Blake Corum going to be the goal line back for the Rams? He's a younger guy. He is coming off an injury. He saw a little down production in his last season at University of Michigan, but keep in mind that Donovan Edwards, the other Michigan back, also saw a decline, and he wasn't dealing with an injury. So that might speak more to the actual offense in Michigan rather than Blake Corum. But Blake Corum should be at least a year removed from his injury, so he could be fresher. There's a possibility that he completely takes over if through camps the Rams are looking and Blake Corum seems to be a more efficient back than Kyron Williams. The Rams don't have a whole lot of draft capital invested in Kyron Williams. Additionally, we are looking at some of the undrafted free agents. One of the ones that's interesting to me is Dylan Johnson, signed with the Tennessee Titans. From a team building perspective, I think it's a really, really good move for the Titans. Dylan Johnson was part of the University of Washington team that played in the national championship and unfortunately for them lost to the University of Michigan. And Johnson went undrafted. He started at Mississippi State. He was there for 3 years. He transferred to University of Washington. He had 1,195 rushing yards and 16 rushing touchdowns. He also was heavily involved in the passing game. He's a pretty good receiver and is good at route running. He has good hands. So it's a sneaky UDFA signing for Tennessee. Getting a running back. Not a lot of running backs are going to rush for 1,100 yards in college football and go undrafted, but Dylan Johnson did, and Tennessee brought him in. We also saw Missouri running back Cody Schrader signed to a UDFA deal by the San Francisco 49ers. Schrader is not a tall man. He's 5'8", which puts him in the bottom tier of height for running backs, but he weighs 202 pounds, which gives him kind of a bigger sized BMI, which a lot of times the BMI correlates to production in the NFL. He didn't run very fast. He ran a 4.6 at the combine, and he was a 2-year starter at Missouri. He led the team with 1,627 rushing yards, which was a school record, and 14 touchdowns. He was a Doak Walker Award finalist. That's an award that's given to the best running backs in college football. He's probably not going to make an impact. The 49ers also drafted Isaac Arendo, who has an athletic profile from the combine that is absolutely off the charts. But he may stick as a special teamer, and the way that the 49ers kind of run through running backs, he might be somebody to kind of put on your watch list, if you will. Just keep an eye on him over the next few years. Because if there's anybody that knows what they like in a running back, it's Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. And there's a possibility that Cody Schrader might someday overtake Elijah Mitchell. Now let's look at some of the running backs that the 49ers have had over the last few years. Tyrion Davis-Price, Elijah Mitchell, Raheem Mostert. It's a very long list, and a lot of them have either gone on to be productive with other teams because they couldn't find a spot in the 49ers rotation, or stuck around in San Francisco to, be backups for a little while. So, okay, that's going to do it for the week. I have been and will remain Bredon Booth, and I will talk to you guys next week, 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern, with Player Profiler Today, Friday edition. And everybody out there in YouTube viewership land, I appreciate you watching. Please comment, give me some feedback, tell me how I'm doing. I appreciate constructive criticism. If you don't like my show, tell me. If you do like it, tell me. Like and subscribe. Go over to Player Profiler. Check out some of the stuff that we have on offer. It's pretty incredible. Go ahead and search Google Player Profiler News Archive. Follow us on Twitter. All of the things. Like and subscribe, and have a great week. I will talk to you guys next Friday.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.